What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the 49ers Camelot Show. I am your host, Marc Adams. You can find me on Twitter at 49ers Camelot or wherever, because I have the same name everywhere I'm at. You can also find my stuff at 49ers Web Zone. I write there, so go check that out. Go check out what we're doing there. A lot of great writers doing some really cool stuff, and so go check that out. We're going to jump in today, and I titled this Brock Purdy Leads Offensive Masterclass versus the Cardinals. And I'm going to give some key takeaways, some things that jumped out to me because it is fun to celebrate and fun to break down some things that happen. What's up, Josh? Josh is here with me in the chat. He said, this is a victory Monday. Yeah. Hey, I'm getting used to this, man. It's fun to have this team winning so much, and hopefully next week we're celebrating that again, because the next matchup is going to be the toughest one so far. Bryant says, "What's up, faithful?" What's up, Bryant? Good to have you here. So let's get into this. Let's see what jumped out to me. Some key things, some key takeaways. Again, the way that I do this on Mondays is while I'm watching the game. On Sundays, I'm writing down notes. And so if you are in the PSF app with us when we're live, me and Anthony Robertson, then you probably hear me typing or something like that, because I'm writing notes so that I don't forget anything, so that when I come back to write my article for 49ers Web Zone the next morning, or when I jump on here to talk about the game, those things are already written down, so that way I don't forget them. So here's the notes that I wrote down. If someone is going to break a record held by Jerry Rice, I'm glad it was Christian McCaffrey. So as you probably know, McCaffrey broke Rice's record for scoring a touchdown in his 13th straight game with the 49ers. Now, that's pretty cool. That's great for the 49ers. But here's the thing that I thought was interesting. This is per ESPN. McCaffrey is the first player in the NFL to do that since Arian Foster had a 13-game streak for Houston back in 2011 and 2012. McCaffrey's too shy of the record since the merger held by John Riggins and O.J. Simpson. This is before O.J. Simpson started committing double homicides, but that's a different podcast. So if McCaffrey does this for a few more games in a row, he's going to be the all-time leader in this. And so that's pretty impressive. You know, John Riggins, he was a legend back in the late 70s and early 80s. And O.J. Simpson, of course, was one of the greats. So that'll be a pretty amazing accomplishment if McCaffrey reaches that. I mean, it's already impressive, but if he's able to break that record, it's even more impressive. Next thing I wrote down was that Jair Brown making an impact on special teams is good to see. It would be really cool to see him make an impact on the defense and get to play with the defense. But as long as Tashawn Gibson continues to play at a high level, then Brown's going to have to wait a little bit, because, I mean, right now, the defense is playing well, especially in the secondary. I'm going to talk about one of the secondary members here in a little bit, but you can probably guess which one. But I think that right now, Lenore and Ward are playing well at corner, and the safeties are playing real well. So no issues there. Josh wrote in the chat, has a very good shot with how he's used. Yeah. LOL. Yeah. He's talking about McCaffrey breaking that record. Yeah, he is used fairly often, I would say. And then Josh wrote, the better CMC plays, the worse Kyle likes the backup running backs. Yeah, and to me, it seemed like Jordan Mason didn't have the juice yesterday that he had last year. He just didn't seem to have that, because he would come in and he'd be like a truck running people over and just shooting through those gaps. And he really didn't do that. He didn't do much yesterday. And so I think Elijah Mitchell needs to be healthy, because I think that Kyle wants to spell McCaffrey as often as he can. And I think that he really trusts Elijah Mitchell because, as we've said multiple times, Mitchell has still not fumbled in his NFL career. That's amazing, especially for the amount of carries he had as a rookie. And so when you have a guy like that who can make plays and doesn't put the ball on the ground, man, coaches love guys like that. And so I think that Kyle has a lot of confidence in Mitchell as a backup running back. And I think that Mason, he hasn't fumbled in a regular season game, but he put the ball on the ground 3 or 4 times in the preseason. And so I don't know if that's still in Kyle's mind. So I was kind of curious. I mean, you didn't see Ty Davis Price play at all yesterday. So that's I'd be interested to see what Davis Price can do. But I think that Jordan Mason is definitely the better of the two right now. So I just noticed that Mason didn't look quite as fast and as strong yesterday as he did last season. Next thing I wrote down is that McCaffrey is Superman. He not only runs, he flies. So I wrote that down when I saw that play where McCaffrey leaped over or leapt. I don't know what the proper way to say that is. But when he jumped over that one defender when he scored, that was incredible. In our PSF chat, we're live during that in the PSF app. Go check that out. You can download it, whether it's for Android or your Apple device, your iPad, your iPhone, all those things. So I was watching on Sunday Ticket, and Anthony was watching, I'm guessing on TV. And so mine was a little bit ahead of his. And so I tried not to tell what's going on before he gets to see the play. And so it's kind of hard because sometimes I'm like, whoa, and I react in a way. Because usually when I'm not live like that setting, I'm a lot more reactionary. So Sunday night, we're not going to be live. The other team on PSF will be, and that team has Steph Sanchez. So again, go download the app and come join us. It's a lot of fun. So Sunday night, I won't be live, but I'll probably be reacting more than I normally do. Next thing, someone tell Jake Moody he's not allowed to kick the ball out of bounds on kickoffs. That's twice this season already. And this time, when that happens, the other team starts at the 40-yard line. So that's a huge mistake. I mean, we're talking if you kick it back and they start at the 25, no big deal. If they start at the 30, that's not what you want, but still it's not that big of a deal. But if they start at the 40, you're already giving them 1 or 2 first downs that they don't have to get. And so 40-yard line is good field position for an offense to start out at. And so Moody, when he kicks it out of bounds, he's letting the other team start at the 40. And when that happened on Sunday, that was the first drive that the Cardinals scored on. So, and until that point, the 49ers were really dominating. I'm going to talk about the defense here in a little bit, but that was a big mistake for Jake Moody. He did hit all of his PATs, so that's a positive thing, but he needs to stop kicking it out of bounds. Next thing I wrote was, welcome back, Brandon Aiyuk. The 49ers got their top receiver back, and Aiyuk did not disappoint. He had 6 catches for 148 yards. One of those was a beautiful throw downfield, a 40-something yard gain. Beautiful throw by Brock Purdy, but an even better catch. this was fingertip. Great catch, great adjustment by Aiyuk. He runs great routes. We've all talked about that, but he has great hands. We all remember that play last year where Brock Purdy scrambled to his left, somehow escaped being sacked, came all the way back to his right, threw a perfect pass into the end zone, and Aiyuk dropped it. Well, he hasn't dropped anything this year. They threw him the ball 6 times yesterday. He caught all 6 of them. He did the same thing in the first game. I think that he's had no drops. And so I think that there's only been like I saw this earlier today, and it's something like 3 passes thrown his way that weren't completed, and they weren't his fault. They were either bad throws or the breakups or whatever. And so Aiyuk is becoming one of the top receivers in the NFL, and he's just looking like he's gonna keep on blooming and be a special player. Next thing I wrote, have I mentioned McCaffrey is really good? Have mentioned that. 4 touchdowns yesterday. He probably could have had a 5th, but Kyle Shanahan decided to get him get Brock Purdy a touchdown. So the record is for 49ers touchdowns in a game. Jerry Rice had 5 and Ricky Waters had 5. And so McCaffrey was just 1 away from breaking that. So Josh said that Aiyuk was 8 for 8 in week 1. Yeah, I knew it was something like that. No drops. Every ball thrown his way was completed. So impressive Aiyuk, impressive McCaffrey. 4 touchdowns is crazy. Kind of wanted to see him get that 5th, but at the same time, I just wanted him to score, because at that point, let's put the game away. Next thing I wrote down was Deebo Samuel didn't do much in this game, but it could be that he was just a decoy and they weren't planning to get the ball in his hands that often due to his 2 injuries. So he came into the game banged up, wasn't sure he was even going to play, but then as we got closer to the game, the word started getting out that it sounds like Deebo's going to play. And early on, they got him the ball. I think they ran him maybe the 2nd play of the game. Ran him to the outside, didn't get much, and I think they used him to do something like that again later in the game. But they only ran him. I'd have to look at the stats, and I don't have them right here. But I'll see if I can pull those up real quick. But Ant and I talked about that yesterday during the live stream. Are they using Deebo as just like a decoy, as a distraction, that because of his injuries, maybe they weren't planning to get the ball in his hands that much, because maybe they were like, hey, we don't even know if he's going to play, but if we can at least get him on the field, then that gives the Cardinals something to think about. And so Deebo had 3 carries for 6 yards. No passes. They didn't even throw the ball his way. So yeah, I think maybe he was just a decoy, and they never were planning to even get him the ball. So here's the next thing I wrote. Ambry Thomas is not good. I pick on him a lot. So last year, in my reaction pieces for 49ers Web Zone, I picked on Mike McGlinchey a lot. Like almost every week, I was saying Mike McGlinchey's terrible, and so it kind of became a joke, and if I didn't slam McGlinchey, then people would reply to the article and say, hey, what's wrong? You forgot about McGlinchey. And so this year, it seems like Ambry Thomas is the one that I keep picking at. I don't think he's that great. And I feel like every time he's on the field, bad things happen. And so I know they did it yesterday because Isaiah Oliver was having to deal with some quicker slot receivers, and that's not his strength. Oliver he's more physical. He had some really good tackles yesterday, some good open field tackles. In fact, he popped a few people, but that's Oliver's game. He's physical. He matches up better against the bigger receivers, but those quicker ones give him problems. And so I know that's why they pulled him out of the game and they put Lenore in at the slot and at the nickel. And then they brought Ambry Thomas in on the outside. And then what happened? The Cardinals immediately go down and score a touchdown. And one of those was Thomas got beat on a double move and gave up a big play. And then right after that, the Cardinals scored. I don't know if that was on. I've seen a lot of people saying that was Ambry Thomas' fault. I'm not really sure because I don't know what kind of coverage they were in, but he was with the receiver and then he broke off the receiver to go toward the outside, and that receiver was wide open. And Hufang was, I don't remember which safety it was. Gosh, I forgot which safety it was. But anyway, the safety was late getting there. And so he scored. So I don't know what Ambry Thomas was supposed to do on that play. Was he supposed to stay with the receiver? If so, he blew it. If he was supposed to go out to the flat, over to toward the sideline, then he did what he was supposed to do, and the safety was late. So I feel like it was Tashawn Gibson. I think that it was, but maybe it was Hufanga. I can't remember. Next thing I wrote was that Purdy's first incompletion didn't happen until well into the third quarter. And he just keeps impressing me. I mean, 20 for 21, 283 yards and a touchdown. I feel like at every turn, he just does something impressive. Like, he keeps passing the test. Everybody keeps doubting him, and he just keeps performing. Remember when after the Rams game, when everybody was like, he can't throw deep. He's terrible throwing deep. And ever since then, he's thrown deep more, and he's thrown deep really well. So I just like how he plays and how he's up for the challenge. Young quarterbacks aren't supposed to have mastered the quarterback position at this point, but like I put in the title of this, Purdy led an offensive masterclass. I mean, he was Montana-like. He just was dicing up the Cardinals defense. And so this is just impressive how he's out there filleting defenses. And so I couldn't be more proud of Brock Purdy. And I was one of the ones, like last year, I'm all in, really, believing in him and thinking, hey, he may be able to get the 49ers past the Eagles and even win that Super Bowl. But then there was that part of me that NFL history is littered with quarterbacks that looked great for a handful of games and then disappeared. So is Purdy going to be that guy? Because he was picked last in the draft for a reason. And so, it's not a thing like, everybody passed on Tom Brady, at least 6 times or whatever. Everybody passed on Brock Purdy 7 times, and including the 49ers. And so it just, there's something there. And maybe it's just that they put too much emphasis on physical talent and not enough on what's in their mind. And so, with Montana, he slipped to the 3rd round, and Montana was a really good college quarterback. He had been successful. He was highly touted, and yet he still slipped because people thought he didn't have the physical tools that they wanted. Now, Steve Young was the opposite. He had the physical tools, but he early on didn't have what Montana had, that ability to just make plays and to always stay cool under pressure. Young developed into that, but he didn't have that at first. And so Brock Purdy right now seems more Montana-like, more Brady-like. And I'm not saying he's like them, that he is them or going to become them, but he has that intangible where he just sees the field really well, makes decisions really well, makes decisions quickly, and just seems like he doesn't get flustered. And so he is leading an offensive masterclass right now in what he's doing. So I am very close to the point where I'm ready to say he is the quarterback of the present and the future, because I came into back in the offseason, I was saying, okay, Brock Purdy probably deserves to be the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season based on what he did last year. But for me, I kind of thought maybe in 2 years from now, maybe Trey Lance will be the guy because he's just so physically gifted. And so I wasn't ready to say Brock Purdy is the guy. But I'm starting to get to that point. It's going to be interesting to see how he plays against Dallas. I'm going to talk about them in just a second, though. Let's see. The next thing I wrote down was the way the 49ers defense ended the first half and started the second half was not encouraging to me. They gave up 3 consecutive scoring drives. I didn't like that. And I mean, should we be concerned any? I mean, because some people talk about how this defense is better than they were a year ago. I don't know. I think the pass rush is better, but right now offenses are playing them differently. Like they're getting the ball out fast, and that's I just thought they're gonna. Joshua Dobbs has been in the league for like 7 years. He got his first win last week against Dallas. He's not somebody that I thought was going to give the 49ers any trouble at all. Maybe with his legs, but definitely not as a passer. And so I was surprised that he did so well as a passer, but they couldn't get home with their pass rush because the Cardinals were getting rid of the ball really fast. And so that part that concerns me a little bit. And we saw the same thing against the Rams where, Puka Nacua has like 30 catches or whatever it was. He had 15. I can't remember, but he had a ton. And so it was like, the Rams did this and then the Cardinals did this. Get rid of the ball quick. Don't let that pass rush get home. And then we have a chance. And I don't know if Dallas can play that game. We'll see. But that was definitely the game plan that Arizona came in with. And I think that that's definitely the way to attack the 49ers. And so makes me a little concerned, but still the defense came through whenever you needed them to come through. Javon Hargrave had that sack. And so, they came through when they needed to. Speaking of Javon Hargrave, he was unblockable. Man, I just feel like every game he's in the backfield almost every play. And so what if he ends up being the missing piece that they've been missing on that defensive front for the last few years, ever since they traded DeForest Buckner, really? He may be that missing piece, and that could help put them over the top. Next thing I wrote down is I continue to be impressed with Drake Jackson. On this one screen pass, so Jackson's coming in, he's rushing the passer, and immediately read that it was a screen pass and turned around, helped bring down the running back and get the 49ers off the field. Just impressed with that for a young player to recognize those things as well as he did. I just thought that was great. And, as he gets more and more experience and a better understanding of how to read what's going on and what to do in those games, he's going to get to a point where he doesn't have to think as much and he can just let his athleticism take over. And when that happens, I think that he potentially could be a force to be reckoned with. Next thing I wrote down is the 49ers offense is dangerous. And I asked the question, are they now better than the 49ers defense? Since 2019, the 49ers defense has carried the 49ers offense. It was like this in the Harbaugh days as well. Not as much when Kaepernick took over, but the 49ers defense for years has been carrying the team. But right now, the 49ers offense is carrying the defense. Happened yesterday. It happened against the Rams. The 49ers defense was really good against the Giants and really good against the Steelers. But I think that in the second game and in the fourth game, the 49ers offense carried the day. They won the day. And so if the 49ers offense gets to the point where they're consistently better than the defense, man, I mean, they're going to win the Super Bowl as long as they stay healthy and things bounce their way. But because this defense is a championship level defense, and if the offense gets to that point, and I think that they're showing that, it's just can they consistently stay that way? If that happens, then we're going to see this team playing in February, I think. And so that's super exciting. And it's exciting because when you think about Camelot, the 49ers history, the great glory days, like with that Dwight Clark, that catch back there and over my shoulder. Those teams were known for their offense. Now, they won Super Bowls because of their defense. You go back to Super Bowl 19 when they shut down Dan Marino. Joe Montana was the MVP, but the defense really was the star of that show. In Super Bowl 16, in their first one, the 49ers offense wasn't great. They had been all season, but they weren't great in that game. But the defense won that Super Bowl for them. And so, you can go back to 94, best offense in football that year, but that defense is what put them over the top. And so they needed that defense to get past Dallas, and that's exactly what happened. So, yeah, defenses win championships, but I think we're used to having a 49ers offense be really good. When Steve Mariucci was the coach and you had Jeff Garcia and Garrison Hurst and Terrell Owens, you had some great offenses. That offensive line that Garrison Hurst ran behind was maybe the best that they've had in the history of this team. They had some great ones in the 80s, great one in 94. Harbaugh had some great ones, but those offensive lines that Garrison Hurst ran behind were second to none. I mean, they were so good. And so I just think that this offense it has become so dangerous. Over 30 points or better every game this season. So that's impressive. Next thing I wrote down was Willie Snead can block. Willie Snead had a great block on a couple of runs, and he also made a catch. So it was good to see him get in and make an impact. Next thing I wrote down was Purdy, Aiyuk, and McCaffrey were incredible this game. They were easily the three-headed monster. Talked about Purdy a lot, talked about Aiyuk and McCaffrey. We all know how he did. So great game by those guys. But also the offensive line. Other than the sack that Colton McKivitz gave up, the offensive line was really good. Now, here's the scary part. Next up for Colton McKivitz is Micah Parsons. And he survived TJ Watt, although he gave up, a few sacks. Although I do think that one of those sacks that TJ Watt got was on Brock Purdy. But Micah Parsons is a beast, man. And so I mean, we all remember what he did to Mike McGlinchey last year. So this is going to be my number one concern against Dallas is going to be Micah Parsons and getting him blocked. And I thought Kyle Shanahan called a great game. I thought that he was just spot on. His receivers were open. Aiyuk was, he's always open. There was one where he was so open, and I'm like, how in the world did he get so open? But yeah, next up is the Cowboys. And so what are you worried about with them? For me, it's Micah Parsons. Tony Pollard scares me a little bit more than Ezekiel Elliott did. But I just don't know if Dallas is going to be able to run on the 49ers. Now, when they lost to the Cardinals, they had, I think, 3 offensive linemen that didn't play that game or got hurt and left the game. And so I need to check and see if those guys were back on Sunday. But that's going to be a challenge. Can they block Micah Parsons? Can they slow down Tony Pollard? And then those receivers scare me a little bit. With CeeDee Lamb and some of those guys. One of their tight ends had a really good game on Sunday, and then Michael Gallup. I think that they've got some good receivers. So it's going to be a tough game for the 49ers on Sunday night. But hey, this week we're just going to celebrate this win, going to celebrate being 4-0, and excited about that. So hey, thanks so much for joining me. Please take a minute and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and give us some love. Give us a big fat like. That way the whole world can see it. And if you're listening just to the audio part of this, wherever you listen, please make sure you rate, review, and follow the 49ers Camelot Show. Everybody have a great week, and I'll be back here sometime later this week. But I'm out of here. I'll check back in.